My name's Stephen Petch, and I work for Wrench Solutions, and we've been a member of CII since earlier this year. We attended the annual conference this year in Nashville, and also part of the project controls and risk and advanced work packaging groups. And during our time here in CII, we've seen a trend in focusing on AI. So our company is working on how AI can be applied to project delivery. And we thought it would be an appropriate time to share our experience through this journey to bring a light on what is possible with AI agents to stay on top of EPC contracts. We'll walk you through the opportunities of how AI can be applied today. And at the end of the presentation, we will show a live examples of the application of AI.
Indeed. Thank you, Stephen.
So I'm just going to go through a little bit of introduction here with myself and Chimbu. I've had almost 40 years of experience in project delivery, project controls, project management. I've worked across two main continents, Australia and through North America. I've had a lot of experience working with contracts in my career, and spent a lot of time really getting to know how contracts are managed on our projects and the difficulties that we have in there. So today we're looking forward to showing you a little bit more on how we can ease that pain. So I'm just going to now pass you over to Chimbu.
Myself, I've been in the industry for over 25 years, delivering projects, worked across multiple industry verticals, and likewise to Stephen, I've worked in contracts. I've been leading contracts management teams as well, and we've experienced firsthand the overwhelming volume of work that come our way and the very short timeline that we have to honor these expectations as well. And I think it's wonderful this time of the maturity of the technology that we live in. And today we'd walk you through some of these use cases that we've been able to kind of bring about into the contracts world, and we'll share you some live examples as we go through as well. So with that, I think we can get started with the session. Yeah. So what we aim to do today is address how contracts management has been a bit more of a reactive journey for most of us, because not with intent, but it's just the way the processes are set up. With AI agents, a lot of these risks are now being transformed to opportunities, and that would be the path we would take in today's next hour or so. And what we have in terms of technology today is also maturing at a very, very exponential rate. It's accessible to a lot of us in terms of the cost of technology, as well as the options we have in terms of the cloud solutions for those of our customers who needed the solution to be more on-premise because of the fear of technology being put onto a cloud solution. We do have those options available as well today. So it's a great time in terms of the maturity of the technology for us to ease the pain and lean on to the assistance of AI to help ourselves in the contracts management journey. So what we do today is we start with kind of alignment on contract lifecycle. And I know most of us on this call today are from the contracts world. We all do understand the contracts lifecycle, but for the purpose of today's discussion, we just bring up what contracts lifecycle means for today's discussion, and we look at the key opportunities and risks across those life cycles. And then we would go into some live examples, which would really kind of gravitate towards the topic of today's discussion in terms of how AI assistants today would aim to bring down that volume of work, which takes us days to kind of properly do, to a matter of hours in reality. So we'll try and explore some of that as we go through the discussion today. Before we kind of get into the details, I'd like to throw open a very easy poll, and it would get us into the system in terms of how the polls would work. So I'm just going to post and launch that. Questions you see on screen should be coming up to your screens as well. Should be able to choose your options. We'll give ourselves a couple of minutes, and then we will go through. It's interesting. So most of us, I can see, have used AI tools. So a lot of what we discussed today is going to be very familiar to yourselves as we go through and experience this. So I'm just going to close that poll for now. And
yeah, 65% of users.
65%. Yeah, it's a good count. And hardly, 20% haven't used AI at all at work. So that's interesting as well, because there is a lot of opportunity for us to ease the pain of the work that we do. And we'll see some of that examples today. So to set the big picture, contracts are indeed the backbone of EPC projects. Billions of dollars at stake, but of course, disputes cost us millions. It's traditionally very reactive, not by intent, but it's just the sheer volume of documentation and information that comes our way through the project makes it so unwieldy. And so we're always trying to be firefighting and rather than being proactive because of the heaviness of the document. And again, we take the example today later on as a 700-odd page contract, and we all know reading through the clauses and identifying the obligations, identifying potential risks are indeed a heavy load. So we have to go through that with great concentration, multiple cycles to make sure the errors are as effectively reduced as possible. Yeah. With AI, we're able to become proactive. We're able to get more structure to the process. And as well, when we do have project management systems where we have real-time data being flown through into the contract world, it becomes very governance-driven as well. So we'll see that as well through some of the examples that we'd cite in today's discussions. Yeah. So what we mean by an environment where AI would thrive is an environment where we have all of the stakeholders kind of operating together, where we have the technical documentation, the schedule, the cost, the contract in itself, are all in a common pool of environment that allows us to kind of get all those control points like the cost, the progress, the schedule, all of that kind of flowing information into the central repository. With real-time status would mean the engineering activities are being visible to the AI, the procurement activities, the construction activities are all being recorded on at least a daily basis, so that the AI is able to read that information, correlate it with the contractual obligations and requirements, and send those alerts and notifications to the right parties. Yeah. So the idea of this slide is just to set the scene in terms of how, in our experience, we found AI to become very, very effective. Yeah. Now, in terms of how the AI agents kind of help, it's a practical enabler. It's not futuristic. It's here today. It's available to us if we like today. So I'm sure, just going by the percentage of the poll there, I think 65% of us have actually used some form of AI in our work. Yeah. But when we look at purpose-built contracts specific agent, it's your always-on partner. It helps you ensure compliance. It helps you unlock that project data and bring those relevant informations to you. And what's best is it's natural language enabled, so you could speak to it in English and it recognizes patterns on the project. It's able to do some predictive analytics. And effectively, these agents kind of help you work smarter, get to your actions sooner, and also like speed up your work. So that's the smarter, sooner, faster as an axiom for us to bear in mind as we move forward. So that would be the life cycle overview for contracts management that we'd like to discuss for today's discussion. So it begins at today's context from the tender, taking you through the negotiations, award and setup of the contract. And then you get into the execution phase where you onboard the vendors, make sure that you are meeting the obligations through the milestones, ensure that the billing is happening so your cash flows are good, changes and variations are being picked up as they happen. And obviously, if these changes need to be tracked for a claim defense, your agents are there trying to reconcile those correspondences and keep them in order when you need it. And hopefully then leading you to a smooth closure to the contract. And the event that you're unable to get to a smooth closure and you get into arbitration, you do have all the required support from the AI in terms of extracting the relevant information, doing your scheduling of your notices and all of that in time. So this would be the cycle that we walk through today and explore our opportunities on. Yeah. Now, with this in mind, before we get into the heavier discussions on the opportunities, I'd like to maybe throw open one more poll. And okay, so just to see where we are in terms of the okay, the polls should be coming through to you shortly. The system says it's distributing the poll. There you go. I can see a lot of answers coming through. I think the idea for us here is to see where our biggest struggle points are and maybe lean a little bit more towards our discussion in those areas as we go through the slides that are coming up. Managing variations and changes. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, that's an interesting thing to observe. A small minority of us still would like to use the AI for managing the contract securities and the likes. Yeah. Good. Oh, okay. I think the trend is very obvious. I'm just going to close this for the benefit of time and we move forward. Hopefully that should be now visible to the team as well. Good 75% of us look forward to utilizing the AI support and assistance in managing variations and changes. Yeah, absolutely. Tracking obligations, that'll be the next big ticket item. And that's something I think we will see through the live example today. Preparing timely defense claims, absolutely. And aligning the subcontracts vendors to the main contract. Yeah, all of these are areas where I think AI provides us brilliant opportunities. Now, early phase is where you get through the tender, you're through the negotiations, you're setting up your contract for success. Now, at this stage, you're really looking to read through a lot of documentation, ensuring that all the agreements and all the requirements of the tender are being kind of transferred into the contract. Any last-minute add-on clauses and clarification agreements have been built into the contract. And once the contract's signed, then that's it. That becomes your Bible. So the AI agents are able to scan through the tender documentation. They are able to build compliance checklists. We'll go through a brief example of how contract review can be expedited and speeded up with the AI agent in today's live session. Yeah. Submissions of the tender is another area where the AI can actually help you ensure you're compliant with the scope. Now, if you look at comparing drafts, the AI can also be building live obligation calendars as you set up your contract for success. So just making sure all of the required obligations are picked up, the frequencies and the accountabilities are really mapped out, right? So with these opportunities, what is it that we expect to kind of alleviate in terms of risks? Yeah, I mean, typically in a reactive traditional approach, we might miss some of the compliance points. Yeah, I mean, what did that lead to? Yeah, some of the risky clauses slip in, and humanly, it's impossible for us to kind of ensure that all of these requirements have been addressed. Yeah. Human error with obligations being tracked at times do happen. We might list it, but with the right reminders, given us enough time to ensure that these obligations are met, also help us stay on top of it. Yeah. So that's the early phase of the contract. Now, when we get into the execution phase, that's when you really start seeing. Wait a minute, why?
Sorry.
Have you got my slides back on?
No, we still see the poll results. There you are, execution
There
phase.
we go.
There we
Ah,
go.
right.
Sorry,
Okay,
someone
we're
popped
back.
up that the poll results weren't shown. We didn't share the results.
Already. Okay. Okay. No worries. Thank you for that.
Sorry.
Stephen, no problem. So we've got the execution phase now. So in the execution phase, AI can generate you dashboards. Like we've seen, the smarts of the AI can be used to dig out the information that you're looking for through the NLP. You can ask AI for certain milestones. Where are we with it? What's the potential items that might be slipping out? And if you need to send out notices and alerts, you could use the AI to do that for you. You could use the AI as your contractual watchtower to monitor milestones, help you interrogate letters, and make sure that the acknowledgements go on time. And most of the contract letters we know will need support from the project team to compile the necessary details. So AI could actually help ensure that all of the people are notified in time, and you are able to then stay on top of these. Yeah, setting up securities, getting your guarantees in place. And when if projects drag out, some of these will need to be extended. And the AI would actually be your watchtower, your always-on partner who can actually be helping you stay on top of it. Yeah. So a lot of times when we onboard subcontractors and making sure that their contracts are, your risks are passed on as best as possible to the subcontractors contracts as well. How do you ensure these risks are passed through and consistently kept track of? Yeah. So AI can be a great blessing to help us stay on top of all of this. And we'll look at some examples today through that live illustration at the end of, or towards the end of today's discussion. With all of that, the risks that we try and mitigate are missing out on notices, yeah, making sure the expiries that could lead to a lot of money being exposed. And a lot of times when vendors and subcontractors fail to deliver on obligations, it would end up on the main contractor's shoulders. And that's another risk that we always are wary of. Yeah. As we move from execution onto the kind of phases where we're trying to make sure that the billing's on time, any changes that happen through the execution are picked up, and then you make sure there is a smooth closure. Yeah? So with the AI in the integrated environment we looked at the beginning of today's discussion, we've seen how all of the schedule and cost information is integrated in the same environment. So that allows the AI agents to look at the schedule and identify potential delays. It's also able to see the impact of such delays on cost. Is able to do smart tracking and as well help you minimize the delays, because you're able to then see through the linkages in the schedule what might be impacted because of, say, even situations that are beyond our control sometimes. Yeah, and expedite, say, procurement and advice on air freight on some of the things that could best be air freighted instead of waiting for the on-road transportation, which could potentially lead to delays in the project. Yeah. Helping on billing, which would obviously improve your cash flow. Timely notices, that's an interesting one, because a lot of times we do miss out on an opportunity to the claims because we haven't notified in the required time window. So ensuring the obligations are closed in a systematic manner towards the end of the contract, and ensuring that securities are released on time. Yeah. Most importantly, the lessons learned are captured for future projects, and also during execution phase, we meet up with issues. You could always ask AI, how did I deal with this in some of my other contracts or previous contracts? And it becomes possible today for us to extract that, gold dust of information from the lessons learned repositories that we may have from our previous projects. It's so much more capable today for it to extract it on demand. Now, with all of that, we are now minimizing the risk of scope creep, causing significant delays to the project. Any potential milestone delays get highlighted early, so we're able to react to it, respond to it appropriately. Missed notice deadlines are avoided, and of course, the securities remain unclaimed if we miss them, and warranties and all are chipped in on time. So there's a lot of risks that are now being converted into potential opportunities when you have AI assistants support you in that space. Yeah. So when we don't kind of close the contract, you go into arbitration litigation. Typically, you go into the dispute board, you get into mediation, arbitration, and being able to track your case references and filings and deadlines, maintaining your evidence libraries, being able to pull out these information on the fly, on demand. Yeah, more so because your AI agents have been meticulous in organizing the information throughout the execution of the contract, keeping track of all the correspondence that potentially might be needed later, tagging them and keeping them in a structured folder. So being able to extract them in a timely fashion puts you in the best position. And as well, when you need to be tracking tribunal trends, AI is available for you to kind of lean on and very quickly extract this information. So if you've kind of been through all of what we've done here and you've had the AI kind of supporting you, you would agree with me that AI's support is immensely useful. And not only that, it's something that is available today. Yeah. So as we move into the live session, I'd like to open one more short poll just to get your feedbacks on what we've seen so far. And this time we'll make sure we share the poll results as well. And then just so we're all on board with this. So there, I can see the polls being published. So from what we've seen so far, right, what capabilities would give you the most value? Interesting, very interesting. So we will see the generating obligation calendar from an example contract that I've loaded up, and we can see that as well. Automated alerts on securities, brilliant. Yes, so that's something that would be available, I think, once you have a live project running. Variations and claims, definitely something that always weighs heavily on our shoulders to pull the information together.
I think we can close that.
Yeah, I think we've got most of our team members participating, so I'm just going to close it and share it. Yeah, so what happened? Did I? Oh, right. So brilliant. So you see, there you go. 54% of us said the end-to-end contract governance dashboard will be most useful. So we do have, I think today, most project management software providers with dashboards. But again, the dashboards are something that is static. But when you have a contract governance dashboard that's constantly sending you alerts, it becomes a lot more powerful. Generating and tracking obligations are indeed one of the most useful and probably the easiest thing for an AI agent to do for us. Yeah, dispute tracking, smart variations. Interesting. So I'm just going to probably hide this, and I'm getting good at this tool now. So good. So let's go into the live session. So I'm just waiting for that screen to refresh for all. Okay, a little bit of a red there. Okay, brilliant. So what we'll be looking at today is an example contract that you see here is a volume 1 of an OCR copy with a digital signature on it. It's over 750 pages. And what I'd like to draw your attention to is how we've got contract guardrails being set up in this specific use case example, right? So we've seen majority of us have already used ChatGPT or one of the commonly available AI support. When we use those common support AI engines, you'd have to rely on what it tells you. But when you're able to configure something to your company's standards, you could set something up with your own guardrails of what standards of risks that you're willing to take. And as well, like and we've used FIDIC for some of our customers in Europe, where FIDIC books kind of give you the governance guardrails. And on top of that, you could modify it that gives you the order of precedence in terms of what is acceptable as a risk that you would want to carry on. And as well, it creates those letter templates. So when correspondences come in, the AI is able to kind of understand what is required, create a early draft for you. So a lot of work gets kind of done by the AI for you to then get in and do what the humans do best: critical thinking, getting creative with what needs to be included. So what we'd also look at as we go through this example is how we would load up a contract. And when it comes in, we'd start with redlining of the contract and just making sure that all of the clauses are reviewed and any comments are noted, and then look at how you could probably collaborate. Multiple stakeholders could be looking at multiple team members from, say, the legal team and your contracts team are all reviewing this collaboratively, marking it up, and getting the AI to do the consolidation for you. We'd also see the obligations. I was one of the 45% of us wanted to see how AI could help extract obligations and security. Yeah, and we'd also do a brief address on how AI could assist us with letters. So just to familiarize ourselves with the interface, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse pointer. Is it visible?
Yep.
Okay, so we're just going to focus on the contract space here. We'll look at uploading documents. We first do the review of contracts, and this tile here on white, we've got a couple of buttons down here. So you'd see them light up as we go through this example there. And then we go and look at obligation and securities, and then we'd also look at letters. So with that, let's just probably get started. So what we're looking up on the screen there is you typically go in and load your contract. You've already got your guardrails in the system previously, so it's going to review that contract. Now, it's probably in a couple of minutes going to pull up the summary of what it believes is typical deviations from the standard guardrails. What you see here is an example with FIDIC. So having a summary is good, but how do you see it marked up on a document? So we've opened up the document, you see that collaboration window, you can then go up to that same page 67, you see those comments there, right? You click on a comment, it takes you to the comment in the document. You'd then be expected to review it and update it yourself. So once you update it, it becomes your comment. So that's me, Chimbu. So I've marked it up. It's now my comment. You can see that the AI assistants commented it, Chimbu's commented it, and you could obviously collaborate with the legal team as well with them marking up their comments onto this document. Now, it's a large set of documents. In this example, we're only looking at one document, but you could obviously be loading up, and you will be certainly loading up multiple versions and volumes of a contract. And you want to see a summary of all of that. So this particular example, we're clicking up against that one document, and you're trying to get an extract of what's most relevant elements from within that contract. And AI is just pulling up that summary for you. You could ask anything about what you want to see. Yeah? So the obligations, securities, and all those options on the top there are for a collective. Now you have multiple volumes of information or PDFs that would come in. You've loaded up. For today's example, we'll just do the obligations from one document. So I've just clicked on the top there. You can see a listing of all the obligations with the due dates and the clause references. Just going to click on that button against that particular document, and you can see in a matter of minutes, AI is able to extract 97 of the obligations that are relevant for this contract. Towards the securities, it works a similar way. You're able to now filter down, look at what's the exposure values or what's the values of these securities and the likes. When it comes to letters, we've got a very ChatGPT-like or a Gemini-like interface where you're able to kind of, oh, I went through really quick. So that interface allows you to kind of ask for AI support to draft a letter. In a real world scenario, the AI is actually picking up the letter as it comes in. So inward correspondence is being picked up, read and understood, and it's automatically drafting that letter for you. And you've got a template in a doc file down there you can click at as well. So that's an example of how AI could actually speed up your process by supporting you or assisting you in that space. Yeah. So I think we've looked at a couple of different scenarios and a couple of different examples from what we've discussed in terms of the opportunities in AI today. What I'd like to do is just refocus on the key takeaways today. I mean, we'd open up the floor for questions shortly. So AI agents, they drive foresight and accountability. Now contracts now become a living governance tool, not a static document as it typically is today. Now, value from day one. Yep. When we went into these discussions with a lot of our customers as an opportunity, there's always been a perception that AI can only be meaningful after loads of data can be fed into it, multiple project information is required. Now that is true. That is true for schedules. That is true for most of the statistics-driven processes. But when it comes to contracts, you could actually start benefiting from an adoption of AI from literally day one. Yeah, you've already started. Majority of you've already started using it with ChatGPT. Becomes all the more powerful when you're configuring it for your own enterprise. Yeah, and we don't have to spend days to kind of get to the jobs that we all have to do. We could actually get that done in hours, just giving ourselves time to do the critical things, giving ourselves the attention needed and the focus needed. So zero compromise should be our motto going forward. Yeah, and zero tolerance for delays is what Wrench swears by. So with that, I think it's time to open up for questions. We've got some questions already.
Oh, we did have. I saw one. Let's peek in here and see. We have quite a few questions. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yep.
Of course. So we're going to go. The first one is, could AI substitute the use of dispute boards?
So let me answer that one, Chinbu.
Please do. Yes.
I don't think it will substitute the use of dispute boards, but I think AI can certainly support the resolution of disputes by looking into the information from both sides and making an assessment of the issues that have been brought up, possible variations, claims, and to help actually to bring that information up. I don't think there's any substitute for people looking at this information after AI has been through it, but it certainly could save a lot of time in being able to organise that information, pull the information out, get it into such a form that it could provide that information back to the contracts people to allow them to settle a claim in a much shorter time period, I think, than what would be normal.
And I think we should always lean on AI, especially with today's maturity of AI in terms of AI is only an assistant.
Yes.
We still have to have the human checking and human support needed, especially for the critical thinking. And yes, technology today is moving towards an artificial general intelligence with the self-learning and all of that. So maybe in a couple of months, we might be there. But as of today, I think it's imperative that the human element be given the due relevance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next question, I suppose. Yeah, it's an easy one. Stated load contracts means what? Okay, so typically you would expect the contract management AI to be implemented on top of an electronic document management system where you have structured folders wherein the information is already retained. For today's example, I've actually uploaded a PDF file. So We upload. The loading of the contract means uploading the PDF files, just meant to kind of showcase that as an AI independent tool. You'd obviously have to load the information into the AI for it to kind of consume it and then start making meaningful interpretations from there. But in a real world implementation, we go with AI as a layer on top of an electronic document management system. And that's probably the best way to kind of address it, because then you would also have your correspondences coming in there. You'd always have your copies of your securities being retained there. AI is able to read it and not just rely on what the contract stated, but it will also have an actualization of what is that date showing up on that document. Is that in line with the contract? So contract governance requires the contract on one side, but line of sight on what's actually happening on the field as well. So that was just for today's illustration, Vikrant. What logic is used to collect this information? This information, I'm assuming it's the information that the AI is presenting to us. Yeah.
Yes.
So the logic of the order of precedent and what is relevant is being trained. And now that's an area where I think we went through steep learning curves, because getting the AI to be trained as a contracts person took us a lot of effort. And I think it's interesting. We were having this conversation as well a couple of days ago in terms of the learnings that we went through. Getting the logic is about training the AI as a contracts engineer would think, for it to know what the order of precedent is, for it to know what the logic of the clauses mean, and as well, when it reads through a tender, reads through a contract draft, it needs to know what might be conflicting clauses. So it needed training. So we've used FIDIC to kind of do the early training and getting that alignment on the knowledge base. Yeah. How do you know it is complete and accurate? Okay, interesting. And that's a very, very pertinent question. The only way to know that it is complete and accurate is to have the human element to that mix. So what we experience typically is that the AI, when implemented, would not be as accurate, would not be as complete, but it goes through the training, it goes through the learning as the human element comes in, and then the human participant would start commenting on the document that the AI has already reviewed and commented. AI learns from the comments that it sees its human counterparts are adding to the document. And as it goes through that, it becomes more accurate, it becomes more refined. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. What is the underlying LLM that is being used, Ricky? Okay, interesting. So the LLM is merely doing the translation, because you're asking the question in English. The LLM can be any LLM. So in our experience, we have customers who've used a variety of different LLMs. On the cloud, we use the Azure OpenAI services, but it's not the only tool that we need, because today we have a lot of agentic services as well being provided. So the LLM that we use for the AI is only doing at this point the translation of the question being asked. And when it's gone into the knowledge base, it retrieves that information and it does that translation back for the human user to understand as well. In the contracts space directly, there is no generative predictive analytics or statistics being used. So that's another space where we do lean on graph data and the LLMs for it to be able to do some of that forecasting and scenario predictions. And yes, in the schedule space, we do utilize the LLM's capabilities for it. More than the LLMs, we lean more on the reasoning layers. So it would be fair for us to say it's LLM agnostic. You could, if you companies, organizations already subscribing to a certain LLM service, you could certainly attach the knowledge base to that LLM. It is like Vikrant asked earlier, I think it is more relevant that the knowledge base is built in a manner that it is aligned to a contract engineers or contract personnel's thinking. Yeah?
Yeah, and it's learned.
Yeah.
from all of that.
It learns from all of that, indeed, yeah. How are the details of specific contract language for a company incorporated? Is it just through the guardrails, Vicky? Absolutely. So there's two layers of learning. The first layer is certainly the guardrail, which goes through a controlled revision process. And that's a way of giving it lump information to say, you shall warn me if a tender requires anything more than a 5% value as bid bond. So high level, big block clauses can certainly be keyed in to that guardrail. And the guardrail is just a document that you would write like you would write a contract. The next layer is the learning that it goes through as it observes the human counterparts go through and start correcting the work that the AI has already done. So it would use its learning, which could be coming from international standards, acceptable contracting standards, and we could load up in the folders wherein we say these are your guardrails. There will be an order of precedent hierarchy where the guardrail document for the enterprise takes the highest precedent. You'd obviously have the regional law as well. So you could start aligning your standards that the AI would utilize for doing its support activities by setting up the guardrails, aligning it with the Europe. I think we use FIDIC. We could have a similar set of standards for the US. And as well, it's industry dependent. Yes, I was at an offshore jackup event, and it's BINCO that helps the marine world stay on track with contracts. So we have a lot of different examples of standards being utilized for setting up the contract knowledge base. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Ricky. How is the system trained against a set of company documents that represent standards for contracting terms and language, Ricky? I think my response to your previous question, I think, is a little bit layering onto this one as well. It is the guardrails that dictate the language. You would also have the opportunity to set up templates. So you could set up certain standard contracting templates as best practice templates, and that could be your guardrail as well. So guardrails don't need to be written down as guardrails, and you could set them up as your best practice templates or as templates as standard contracts as well. And that's really use case effective as well, because then if you want to write out a master service agreement, you could just ask AI to say, can you pull out a master service agreement for a certain service? And it would be able to go into your repository of standards and pull out something that is most relevant and make the tweaks necessary to align it with the scope that you're looking for it to support you draft one for. So it's the guardrail as a document, templates that we would set up, and as well as the standards, international standards that would help it align the terms and language. What's the cost of the tool? It's a very, I think, in most cases, the cost of the tool would be certainly a very small proportion of the opportunity lost. Yeah, and it's again a scaling matrix, because it's like in the world of consultancy today. You would employ a consultant to read a set of documents and provide inputs. You would pay by the hour. Today, the AI use case costs are based on, again, the volume of information that the AI has to kind of digest and support you on. It's not an exorbitant cost, and that's something we can take up on a one-on-one basis. You know where we are, so you can reach out to us, and it will be subject to the use case as well. Okay? So it's something that today's world is very accessible compared to the cost of what we are letting pass. How does a company legal department get comfortable that inappropriate language does not get inserted at any point in the contract document? Okay. Oh, interesting. So hallucinations are very common. I think if you have used anything on the internet where you don't have guardrails, you haven't set up a standard language, then there is chances of certain language being inserted into a document that is inappropriate for the use case. And that's precisely why I think when we started off this discussion, we said it's important that you look at, you take up contracting and AI in a space where you take it seriously, you make an effort to set up those guardrails, you make an effort to set up those templates. And in most cases, most organizations actually already have a standard set of best practice guidelines and ideal scenario contracts that can easily be loaded into the knowledge base for the AI to be trained. So it is how you train it that helps it deliver you service as well, Ricky. Yeah. Does the AI tool support automated detection of deviations between supply contracts, client master service agreements, and back-to-back risk mitigation features, especially around indemnities, liability caps, and insurance compliances, payment milestones? Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's something that I believe AI helps us most in, because it's able to correlate information and it tabulates them as well. So you would be enabled as a human to be able to read it and critically evaluate it as well. In a running contract scenario, when you're onboarding your suppliers and there is a huge volume of information coming in, it helps that you have these tabulations done very rapidly and have that being brought up to your attention when deviations are observed. And these deviations are something that are part of the training as well. So you on one side would have your contract as a governing document and the knowledge base that it's created for you. And based on that, when you bring on board your subcontractors and your suppliers, it's able to assess the potential conflicts between them as well as deviations. And you've rightly mentioned the insurance compliances and indemnities and the likes. That's an area where I think it's most beneficial to have a partner who's always on, never rests.
Yep.
Yeah. How can one do to be trained in AI on projects management? Is there a way to train online? One. So I think you want to take that one. I think it's not about training the individuals. It's about creating an environment where there is collaborative information.
Right.
So it's about, in project management, professionals in project management do what they do.
Yeah. You have to understand the projects and contracts and how things work, and then being able to take the AI and work with it to look in and help you in those projects. It's not something that's a simple training on. I think it's a two-part. One is to understand how AI works. The other one is to understand how projects work, and that's pulling the two together.
Yeah.
That's going to give you the benefit of both.
Indeed, indeed. And you're quite right. I think for professionals who are trained in project management, like there's PMI and there's a lot of project management training, but the training is only going to help you know what needs done, but the tools are important as well. So if you have access to a project management information system where you have information, that's your next step. But you'd soon realize there's so much information that you're not able to stay on top of all of that all of the time. So you would set it up with the best intent, but as the project progresses, time kind of compresses and the volume of information coming your way becomes too hard for you to keep up with. And I think the organization we work for, we've been into the space of project management for a good 27 years now, and we understand project delivery. And I think for us as well, the journey of learning to use AI, helping our customers take the benefit of AI has been very rewarding for us as well, to see how the industry is taking it up and creating a difference in the successful delivery of projects, on-time delivery, right? So it's not about training the individual, and I think AI is very intuitive, and that's what makes AI so useful to the project. Most of the heavy lifting is done by people like us who bring it together and set up the knowledge base. And obviously there is a learning path that we would walk together with our customers to make sure that it is meaningful and it is useful. How are we doing on time, Stephen? About 10 minutes, yeah. What sort of confidentiality guardrails are in place so that a customer's project data is not used generally in the process of improving Wrench's AI tool in a way that discloses confidential information, Robert? All right, so interesting question, Robert. See, none of the project information comes into the Wrench, because not only that we do have non-disclosure agreements, and we would not utilize any information without explicit written consent. Now, the AI's knowledge-based refinements and how those guidelines are coming together is something that we are building for the customer. And that relies on more of a domain understanding, that is a shared learning that we go through. The project itself and the information on the project, the statistics of that project data is all part of the client's environment. It is part of the project environment, project data center, right? And a lot of customers who are very conscious about the confidentiality would prefer to do an on-premise implementation, and we've got a large number of our public sector customers who do an on-prem implementation, and that is probably the best way to keep it confidential. Not that it makes a difference if it's on the cloud, because it would still be a space that would be dedicated for a customer in the cases where it's set up in that manner. And we do have these agreements in place to make sure that it doesn't come into to be used in the wrong manner at all. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Good answers. Thanks. Oh, Vikrant, thank you, Victor. Appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Mahesh, dear, you have a question. When AI is used on a contract document, does that mean that confidential information is taken to AI servers and available to the outside world? What kind of data security is implemented? Okay, very good question. I think we covered some of that in our earlier response. Now, data security is something that is taken very seriously by people like us who are in the industry of providing information services. Now, there's layers of security in terms of how it's protected from the outside world, and that is provided by the data center service provider. So we typically use Azure services, and they've got layers of security. In particular to the AI, your question states, is the information confidential information being taken into the AI servers? The answer is no. It's the relationship that gets picked up. So the information is read and understood where it is, and the interpretation of that is then extracted. And all of that information coming out in terms of the clauses and the deviations, all of that goes back into the project servers. And our project server is only maintaining the deviations, maintaining the obligation list, maintaining the securities list. Now, none of that information is actually passed into the outside world by any means. Yeah, the LLMs, where required. I mean, we've got customers in the defense space as well, where the data centers are located on premise. So if that information is super confidential, then the implementation would certainly address that requirement and would be addressed in that manner. How do we subscribe to your services? Murali Rajagopalachari. Similarly, see, we are available for discussions. Please feel free to reach out to us on the internet. Jenny is available as well. She can help you connect with us. Thank you. How AI has knowledge of standards like FIDIC, etc. Do you load these standards in AI to train the model?
Yes.
Absolutely.
100%.
100%.
And not just FIDIC, we can load any documents, any contract documents, any guardrail documents that you want to put into the system.
Absolutely.
And that's the way you need those to help you to set the platform for those types of reviews.
Yeah. So, Ananti, I mean, right question indeed. and it has to be provided to the AI. And you could today just load your contract into, say, a commercially available ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, any of them, and say, can you please assess deviations in this document against FIDIC? When you do that, you're obviously sending the information of that contract into the internet, and you're probably not allowed to do that in most organizations. And FIDIC might be available, but then we really don't know what else the AI is hallucinating to bring you back those comments. Yeah. So what you've seen today is an example of where you've set up those standards, you've set up those folders in a manner that allows you to have that confidence, and you refine that confidence as you go through and start using the services and commenting them as a human counterpart to the AI, training it as you go through and do that. Yeah. So yes, the FIDIC has to be provided to the agent for it to learn what is right and what is not. Yeah. Can this tool seamlessly integrate with enterprise systems such as Oracle Fusion, SAP, other ERPs, as well as with accounts payables, document control tools to enable real-time tracking of contractual milestones, invoice approvals, compliance obligations across project lifecycle? You want to take that one? Yeah. The answer is yes.
Yes, if you can point it at the right place, has to be integrated in and taught how to take that information. I'm not sure it's always the best way to work in there. It's probably better to be able to extract the information where possible and put it into a standard set of documents or a standard structures where it's much easier to be able to AIs to be able to get to. Now, integrating AI across a lot of systems doesn't make it easy. Yeah, much better when it's in a much more structured environment.
Yeah. Just building on that, Stephen. So our experience has been that we I think in Wrench we have an integrated environment, and typically we connect that environment to Oracle. So ERPs are traditionally record-keeping environments. So you would have your invoices there, as you rightly point out. Yeah, you would have your accounts payables and your receivables being lodged, kind of recorded into your ERP. Now, what AI loves to do is to read the structured information. So providing that structure is most important. We tend to build that structure within our electronic document management system and connect the AI on top of it. And that becomes the kind of middle layer, if you would like to think of it that way, to read the information from the ERPs. And when those transactions are posted in the ERP, it would cycle back into the structured folders and structured set of data, from where the AI is going to pick up that information and provide you that insight.
Yeah. 2 minutes, 1 minute.
So unfortunately,
we have a lot of questions, Jenny, to
yeah, we have a lot of questions. So I think what we'll do is, to those of you who didn't get your question responded to directly now, we will circle back with you by email if that's okay. Really impressed with the great questions, the level of interest on this topic. Maybe we might need a part 2 on this topic. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your talent. We appreciate you keeping us informed on this very relevant topic. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next CII webinar. Thank you again for your time today, everybody. Stay safe.